General walk around and explanation of my go-kart. Just take a look at it. Frame is made from 1 inch, 1/8 inch thick steel square tubing. I'll give you guys some general dimensions. The main frame from end to end is 5 feet, and the main inner part of the frame from there to there is 16 inches, and then these extra bars on the end make it come out to 25.5, and they are 3 feet long. Start in the back. Pretty standard setup. Drilled holes and just use some standard 1 inch pillow block bearings on a live 1 inch steel axle, keyed all the way through. Tires are 12 by 4 on just a standard 1 inch steel hub. Brake, 8 inch rotor with just a generic large mechanical brake. So we'll give you the linkage setup there. I'll go into more detail on that later. It's a floating mechanical brake, like I said. .48 tooth sprocket, I believe, and 11 on the clutch. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, I'll post the correct sizes in the description. I'll save the engine for the end. Move on to the front. Sort of custom-made spindles. I took some old spindles that came on some sort of electric razor go-kart and modified them to use on my kart. Basically, the only thing I used was just a small cup that sort of just fits around this 1 inch part here. Then I welded on this top plate, and then I welded on these 5/8 inch bolts. They're pretty strong. Works decent. Store-bought tie rods with the little spindle coupler things. Homemade sort of linkage arm thing. Goes up, that is a 1/2 inch cold rolled steel rod. Goes all the way up through this pipe. Comes out to here. Sort of had to make a weird improvised hub kind of thing. Basically just welded that 1/2 inch steel rod onto a flat piece of steel, drilled holes for the steering wheel mount, and there's a washer in there as a spacer. It's pretty sturdy. There's some play in the little balls there, which I can't really do much about, but other than that it's decent. Washers welded on each end to keep the rod centered. And these wheels are just sort of cheapy Harbor Freight, like hand truck dolly wheels, 5/8. They're also 12 by 4 Similar to the back. These ones aren't as flat and square, they're a little more rounded off. Which, I don't know, I guess maybe is better for steering. Take a look at the pedal setup. Once again, generic pedals, go-kart pedals I bought off of eBay. They work really well. They've just got a bolt and then a little stopper and a couple holes to mount various springs and whatnot. So for the throttle, I've got spring connected onto a bolt which welds down, goes down to another bolt which is welded on the frame, which gives it some tension and brings it back. Basically got another bolt with some spacers and a notch cut in it so that the throttle cable goes through, which connects down here to this little bit, which I found came from a bike or an old go-kart, maybe the Razor go-kart from before, I'm not sure. Kind of standard little coupling thing. Another important part, welded on a bolt joiner, put in a bolt there, which acts as a throttle stop, so you don't press it too far forward and break the linkage up on the engine. It's adjustable, pretty nice. So that uses just a bike cable, which runs along the frame. It's all zip tied, comes around, goes to the throttle linkage up here, which I guess I'll explain now. Focus. Just a little bracket I made, and then using another bracket that came off a brake from a bike. That goes there. Used part of the old throttle and governor as sort of a pivot arm. Used the old linkage that came on the engine that goes directly to the throttle on the engine. Governor has been removed on this engine. Let me see if I can film myself pushing the pedal. So, pulls on that cable, which actuates that, pushes the throttle. The stopper stops it before it can get the full throttle, because the engine is modified. Explain that. Works really well. No problems there. Go on to the brake. Same pedal. Pretty simple setup. Same sort of spring. And I'd highly recommend, if you're using one of these generic mechanical floating disc calipers, that you hardwire, or yeah, like I guess sort of hardwire the whole action and linkage, because I originally tried to use a bike cable, but it just stretches too much and you can't get solid brake power. So this is also pretty simple, just this solid rod that connects it with another coupler welded on the end with a bolt that screws into there, with this metal spacer welded onto that, so it can go and attach to the pedal. So that rides along there, goes to a bracket where it's mounted and can swing and pivot on there. Just goes back along there to the back. Another same sort of axle pivot setup. Sorry about the shakiness. Which then pulls on the lever. Really strong system. See if I can get myself. So it only takes a little bit, doesn't need that much motion. Brake works really well. Comes to a stop real fast. So see that whole thing working. Works really well. Once again, another generic eBay go-kart steering wheel. bolts onto the hub I made that I explained earlier. Size-wise, the cart fits me pretty well. Sort of from the back of the seat to the pedals is roughly 3 feet. I'm 5'8", and I fit in here comfortably. My knees are sort of up around the steering wheel, but that's similar to any other go-kart. I kind of like it that way, therefore I can sort of brace my arms against my knees for steadier and more stable turns. And your feet, heels of your feet rest comfortably on this bar right here, so you can get a good sort of pivot action. I don't think your feet could fall through or anything. There's no mesh or sheet of metal down there. I think it's fine just the way it is. Same with the other areas. I was planning on putting expanded steel mesh along these side pieces. Might do something with that in the future before I paint it or something. I don't know. Obviously the engine has the normal kill switch that's built into it, but for more safety precaution I have a secondary kill switch wired in, because the engine actually does have a separate little wire that's under this piece of tubing, which you can put another kill switch on. So that wire just sort of runs down along the frame, the same place where the fuel line does. Goes up and around to this kill switch I have. It's just a toggle switch. One end of it is just bolted in, grounded to the frame right there with that little blue connector, and then the other part goes through the engine like I said. So just off is technically on, and on is off on the switch, obviously, because when it's on and the connection is closed, it shorts out and grounds to the frame and cuts the engine off. And obviously when it's on off, it allows the engine to run because it's not shorting against the frame. Placed under there nice, made a little bracket for it. Really easy to access, obviously, if you're driving and something bad happens. Yeah, so just a Chinese 6.5 Honda clone, modified a little bit. Got the bolt-on kit 1, I believe it's called, from Affordable Go-Karts, which includes new header, high flow, air filter adapter, 18-pound valve springs, which is very important to have when you remove the governor. Bought the fuel pump separately, made a little custom plate that it mounts onto. You can see governor is removed. You can see that bolt in there that's plugging the hole. Larger jet in the carb to make up for the high flow air filter and exhaust. As you already saw, the custom throttle linkage. Pulse line for the fuel pump and the fuel line going down into the carb right there. Had some extra tubing, so I made a little down tube breather on the valve cover. Using the gas tank that came with the clone, because it's symmetrical, unlike most clone engines, which have like the corner piece cut out for the air filter, but this one didn't. I think it looks real nice in front. It's mounted by using the original sort of bracket that came on it, and it bolts down into this piece of angle iron from the bottom. It's kind of hard to see. You can see that bolt in there. Both bolts in the front sit on some rubber to reduce vibration, and then on the other side there's another piece of angle sticking out. No bolt in there because it's really tight with that piece of rubber in there, so it doesn't vibrate too much. Fuel line runs along the frame up to the fuel pump. And this engine, with all the little upgrades and whatnot, is very fast. I have the stock clone Chinese cheap flywheel on it yet, so I haven't really revved this thing up to full throttle yet because I do not want it exploding. I have, it's kind of hard to see, I have the screw set down there so it can't go full throttle. Also up here, where are we? Also up here on the throttle stop, I have it out a little further so you can't go full throttle either. Very loud, no muffler, just sort of straight pipe, unrestricted. Engine performs really well. Let's give you a couple more shots. This is completely custom built, made by me. Frame just started as one long 20-foot section of square tubing. As you can see, it's primed in some areas to keep it from rusting, but there's no final paint or anything on it yet because still making minor tweaks here and there. There's lots of cross members and bracing, gussets in all four corners. Frame is pretty heavy, but that's not a problem for the engine. I guess I'll mention the seat. It's like a cafeteria seat you'd find at school. Use the original frame that, you know, the legs would mount to and just cut them off and basically just welded them in there. Works perfect with the original mount because it's got the little back support thing. And yeah, that's about it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Just leave a comment or something. Be happy to answer them. Might make another update video because I'm gonna have to play around with the steering a little bit because it's still a little loose and shaky, especially when you're going fast in this thing. It's a little sketchy. So I'm gonna mess around with that a little bit. Might eventually get a new aluminum flywheel. And maybe a silencer for the exhaust because it's extremely loud. And yeah, that's it.